Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 5 Bytes podcast. The podcast, as always, is brought to you by my sponsors, and that includes Numescent, the inventors of the first and only cloud-native container management platform for Windows desktops. And also brought to you by Master Packager, an application packaging software that helps you build packages that end users love, enterprises want, and the Windows OS needs. If you enjoy the show each week, you have these awesome sponsors to thank. And now for some news. WindowsCentral.com has warned that a couple of known issues are apparent for those upgrading to Windows 11 25H2. There's the problems playing protected content in some Blu-ray, DVD, or digital TV applications. Now, this is something that I already covered on last week's episode of the podcast, but there's also an issue with updates installed with the Windows Update standalone installer failing if installed from a shared folder. This might occur when installing an update from a network folder that contains multiple .msu files. Unfortunately for the DRM issue at the moment, as I covered last week, Microsoft did partially address it with an update, but only partially. So if you still are running into that issue and you're already patched, unfortunately there's not really anything you could do about that. But on the latter issue, when updates are being installed with WUSA, they might fail with an error that's error_bad_path name when the update is installed using WUSA or double-clicking a .msu file from a network share that contains multiple .msu files. The issue is easily mitigated, however, by copying the MSU files to a local directory before installing them. Microsoft has also released a fix that could be downloaded already. Obviously, this issue is more likely to impact enterprises that are hosting patches on file shares. So I guess try to take that fix if this is impacting you, or alternatively, maybe have a script copy the MSU files locally and then install them. A small story here, but one from TechRadar, who highlighted the fact that a small but handy change is being tested in Windows 11 via a preview update. A change that will enable the system tray to work consistently across multiple monitors for those who use multiple monitors. So, if you ever try to access something from the taskbar system tray on a secondary monitor, but it didn't open or work properly, it's only working on your primary monitor properly, it seems soon that may be addressed in Windows 11. Hopefully, this finds its way into a finalized Windows update, not just a preview. Asahi Super Dry, the producer of Japan's most popular beer, has been reportedly hit by a devastating cyber attack that has shut down its domestic breweries. Last week, things seemed really grim, with popular retailers in Japan like 7-Eleven warning that their stock was starting to run low. Asahi said the production systems at the factories themselves had not been affected by the cyber attack, but it had been forced to halt production because it could not process orders and shipments. It was reported that they were resorting to a more manual process for now for processing orders and shipments. While they admitted that some product launches would need to be postponed, the company added that its breweries were producing only Super Dry and that from 15th of October it would resume shipments of 16 products, including its non-alcoholic beers, Dry Zero, Zero, as well as Clear Asahi and Whiskey Black Nikka Clear. So it seems like it could be business as usual again soon, at least hopefully, but this is a cyber attack that essentially brought down their business for several days, so a pretty devastating impact. A ransomware gang who breached an international private school and then posted pictures and addresses of preschool children in an effort to get a payday has now reportedly deleted the data, apparently under pressure from other criminals, according to the Register. Last month, an extortion gang calling itself the Radiant Group stole data from Keto International, a school for young children with branches in the UK, US, and India, and then posted unblurred pictures of 10 children, along with their addresses, parents' names, and other personal data, and threatened to expose more if the ransom wasn't paid. Parents of some children claimed they've received threatening calls after Radiant published the data. London's Metropolitan Police investigators are reportedly following up on the case. The gang in question were called out by well-established ransomware as a service Nova gang on the Russian anonymous marketplace, with one of Nova's affiliate members going under the handle Blackbeard, telling Radiant, quote, "Reputation important, don't attack child right," end quote. Well, not perfect English, but we get the point. Radiant responded to this comments with, quote, "We have disabled any attacks relating to them. Is not allowed anymore. Any data relating to under 18s who attended have been deleted," end quote. Blackbeard then congratulated them and wished the extortionists good luck for the future, and Nova offered to help in future raids. The Register suggested the cyber gang involved in this attack is new to the scene, and essentially were being put in their place by other more seasoned gangs. So a really weird one to watch play out, and I guess there are some code of ethics for these cyber criminals. Although I remember a few years ago, one of those codes of ethic was that they would not hit healthcare settings, and that seems to have gone out the window. Stack counter data suggests that Windows 11 market share stalled in the last month, maintaining around its 48% share. Windows 10 continued to drop and is now on just 40% of PCs, according to WindowsCentral.com. Now, the wild part. Data suggests that Windows 7 is now in use on 9.61% of Windows PCs within Stack Counter's pool of data, and that is up from 3.59% just a month ago. Stack Counter is interesting because they seem to have a very large sample size for the data, but if you listen to this podcast, you may recall that last year it returned some quirky reporting suggesting that Windows 11 was having a decline over multiple months. But then it seemed it got corrected earlier this year. So it seems like this might be another example of just questionable data. And hopefully they're able to normalize this data for next month's report. Because I don't believe that there's been a significant surge in Windows 7, frankly. Microsoft has issued an advisory and warned customers of Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop that there are some plugins that they require to update, namely the Multimedia Redirection Service and WebRTC Redirector Service. These require periodic updates, however, they do not update automatically. So essentially, this advisory is just a little bit of a poke to administrators to get those updated in their environments. I saw an article being shared on social media where it has been alleged that Copilot adoption data was leaked, and it showed Copilot only had a 2% adoption rate, which is in stark contrast to survey data published back in July, which suggested fairly significant adoption. The leaked report was alleged by a podcaster who seems to lean into Gen AI skepticism. Whatever about that, it would be nice, in my opinion, for Microsoft and other large tech companies that are publicly traded to be more transparent on their earnings calls. I'm surprised they don't seem to be obligated to share more than they do, but hey, the more I thought I knew about the investment world as I grew up, the more I found out that it was all just a shaky house of cards and a mug's game. So yeah, why I'm covering that story is just essentially to once again put that opinion out there. It'd be nice to have more transparency in these earnings calls to see, the health of these various different services. But also because I saw this being touted around social media and even on Blue Sky. So if you saw it, in my opinion, take it with a huge pinch of salt. According to neowin.net, Microsoft has launched a dedicated marketplace to sell individual cloud solutions, AI agents, and apps to frontier firms. It's simply named Microsoft Marketplace and combines Azure Marketplace and App Source in a unified storefront that offers tens of thousands of general-purpose and industry-specific cloud solutions, along with more than 3,000 AI apps and agents. Customers have the ability to purchase their solutions through their cloud service provider or through a trusted partner. This one's not really enterprise related, but I saw multiple reports suggesting that Microsoft has indicated they're working on a next generation gaming console, which may put an end to rumors of them exiting the market. They apparently have a project called Brooklyn for a Series X refresh, but outlets indicate that there's more to come. Microsoft themselves said, quote, "We are actively investing in our future first-party consoles and devices designed, engineered, and built by Xbox," end quote. While some outlets have reported Microsoft has confirmed that they are not going to exit the market, there still are some skeptics suggesting indicators are that Microsoft will exit. It would be interesting if they do and how that would play out for the company as a whole. And while this is not enterprise specific, obviously what Microsoft does with their console division and maybe investments into that would potentially ripple into their enterprise business. Eagle-eyed reviewers spotted that the new Apple Watch Series 11 and Apple Watch Ultra 3 are no longer advertised as carbon neutral, and Apple has omitted any reference to this worldwide. Ditto for the M4 Mac Mini. It appears this move may be in response to a German court ruling in August that barred Apple from advertising the Apple Watch as carbon neutral. An Apple spokesperson told Reuters that it would phase out the carbon neutral label for Apple Watches to comply with an upcoming EU legislation which restricts the use of such claims when they are associated with carbon credits or net zero carbon offset projects. So it seems like Apple have gone further than just the Apple Watch range. It also even includes the M4 Mac Mini. Apple's carbon neutrality claims were based on a tree plantation project in Paraguay, which aimed to offset emissions by planting eucalyptus trees on leased land. However, ecologists claimed that such monocultures would harm biodiversity, and the German court noted that Apple had not secured the lease for 75% of the project area beyond 2029, with no guarantee that the contracts would be extended. So yeah, that is shady, right? I think the term is greenwashing, and I guess good for these courts for holding them to account and not allowing them to continue to use that label. Perplexity's AI browser Comet is now rolling out globally for free to anyone who wants to try it. With the browser, you could ask a question and get a full AI summary with sources, or you could highlight text on any web page to get an instant explanation or summary. The browser launched back in July with a huge $200 a month subscription price tag for its top-tier Max plan. NeoWin.net reports that Perplexity claims that since then, millions of people have signed up for its waitlist to get their hands on the software. Free users of the browser are limited to the sidecar assistant, but all users can access tools for personalized news, organizing projects, and getting assistance with shopping or travel. If you're subscribed to one of the paid plans, you get access to more powerful AI tools, obviously. And Mac subscribers paying that $200 a month also get an email assistant that can draft replies and organize your inbox. I would hope they get more than that for the $200. The background assistant can also do things like send an email, add the cheapest tickets for a concert to your shopping cart, and find the best direct flight on a specific date. This functionality works with integrations that allows Perplexity to access and work with other workplace apps and data sources on your computer. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because Perplexity was one of those in the space who seemed to be vying to try and get the Google Chrome business when the U.S. court system was suggesting breaking up Google's business. So yeah, one to watch, I guess. BleepyComputer.com reported that screenshots have been shared on social media showing a direct message feature in ChatGPT, suggesting OpenAI could be about to launch into the social media space. When reporting on this, Bleepy Computer also mentioned that the recently launched Sora 2 video service that's been getting a lot of mainstream coverage has a video reels type feature, but from what I could tell, I mean, just looking at Sora before the Sora 2 release, they always had that, and most of the videos are nonsense in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, just to opine once more maybe on this topic, I'm seeing an awful lot of AI generated videos since the Sora 2 announcement. So like AI videos on social channels. And yeah, I mean, they're kind of impressive, but you can tell they're still AI. It's just the movement is not as fluid. There's just kind of weird quirks to it. You can still tell, right? But not even that. As it gets closer and the lines become blurred and it's starting to look more realistic, are we all just going to shut off to these things like TikTok and Instagram Reels? It's like, if almost all of it's AI generated content, what value does it serve? Like, do you even want to bother looking at it? It feels like we're getting to this point now where there's going to be this fork in the road. It's like, what is AI valuable at? Is it going to be this kind of generated content? I mean, maybe it can still be used for generated content, but selectively. I feel like there's going to be these aspects to it that are going to fall flat. It's going to grow skepticism against AI in general, and it could potentially hurt the business of it. But hey, we'll see. I'm not exactly like a tech Nostradamus. At Dev Day 2025, OpenAI announced a new way for developers to build applications inside of ChatGPT. And starting this week, users in ChatGPT will be able to access interactive applications from companies like Booking.com, Expedia, Spotify, Figma, Coursera, Zillow, and Canva. OpenAI is also launching a preview of their Apps SDK, the developer-facing toolkit to build these apps, according to TechCrunch.com. To try the feature, you can simply begin by prefixing your query with Booking.com and then ask your question. They said the feature launched on Monday, and I tried testing it on Monday, and it didn't work for me. And then I tried it again on Tuesday morning Irish time, and it still wasn't working for me. So this may be one that's maybe trickling out. So I guess keep an eye out. But to use it, you just simply do something like Booking.com. Find me a good 4-star hotel in Tokyo between the date of April 18th and April 21st, something like that. Yeah, you could also do, Spotify, create me a playlist for Christmas music or something like that. Now, I did see some people pointing out that some of it is not all that impressive, like that Spotify example of, hey, create a playlist. It seemed for some people it was just providing them a playlist that was already created by someone else on the platform manually and shared. So that little smoke and mirrors that AI can do, I guess. Finally, in the news for this week, a report by XLab Analysis claims that Starlink can only support 6.66 households per square mile before the usable speeds fall below FCC broadband minimums. BGR.com reported that while figuring out the maths in the Starlink capacity analysis report, XLab's team found that a large density of users in a given area would saturate the network so much that Starlink would be unable to deliver a minimal upload speed threshold that meets the FCC's definition of a broadband service. If that was the case, which seems likely, the platform would consistently fail to meet the NTIA's minimum performance requirements, which is necessary to secure funding from federal grant initiatives like the BEAD program in the United States. That also means Starlink could fail if adopted nationally because it's unable to provide the necessary speeds. Now, this episode's scripts, tricks, and tips. All right, so up first this week, I saw that Tristan Harris, who is the co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology, was a guest on Jon Stewart's Daily Show this week, and it was a pretty interesting interview. He shared some interesting metrics that I suggest maybe check out for yourself. But for example, suggesting that AI has already disrupted the workforce, as current iterations of the technology have dropped entry-level work by 13%. I found it pretty interesting for all these metrics to be kind of put out by this Tristan fella, and also just to hear his theories on things and direction going forward. So I'll share a link with that if you want to check out the interview for yourself. You can find that at 5bytespodcast.com with this episode, which is episode 408. But next up, I saw that Nick Burton shared a blog post on FSLogic's and device policies causing black screens in Azure Virtual Desktop. So if you are experiencing this, I think there's multiple instances of this happening and multiple different reasons why it has happened. But if you are experiencing this and you haven't found an answer, maybe check out this blog post, which I'll also share with this episode of the podcast. And finally, Shout out to Mitchell Paris, who uploaded a new recipe, a cloud paging recipe, to the cloud paging user group. So if you're not familiar, I mean, I've covered the cloud paging user group in the past, but there is this user group for cloud paging customers. We're trying to build up a repository of community contributed recipes. So if you're listening to this and you have some recipes you'd like to share, be sure to go to cloudpagingug.org and just navigate to submit recipe and send them over. But hey, that's it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you all so much for listening.